We often treat a massive net worth as a form of structural armor. The assumption is simple. If you own enough of the world can no longer touch you. Folklore gives us two distinct archetypes of this perceived invincibility. There is Dunpal Singh, a merchant who believed his gold could buy the loyalty of an entire city, and Seth Lalchand, a middleman who grew wealthy by standing between a creator and the market. This graph illustrates Dunpal's fortune. During a drought, he hoarded grain, starving the market to force prices up. Lalchand operated differently. This flowchart shows a sale. The sculptor Arjun did the carving, but Lalchand, the datekeeper, pocketed the lion's share. These empires were vast, but they were built entirely on the manipulation of external variables. Because neither man created anything of his own, their safety lasted only as long as they controlled the system. A local carpenter once tried to warn Dunpal that luck is an unreliable guest. He compared arrogance to a high wall. The taller you build it, the more certain it is to bury you when the foundation eventually shifts. But wealth creates a specific kind of deafness. Both merchants operated under the delusion that their status was a permanent shield, rendering them immune to the consequences of their greed. It raises a question about the nature of security. What happens to these untouchable figures when the external machinery they exploit is suddenly dismantled? For Dunpal, the end came through a single royal decree. The emperor criminalized hoarding, seized every warehouse, and banished the merchant. In a single afternoon, the man who owned the city was reduced to a traveler with nothing but the dust on his clothes. Lalchand's collapse was a result of his own escalating lies. After claiming he was the secret hand behind Arjun's latest masterpiece, a theft forced him to prove his craftsmanship before the king to maintain his claim on the work. The lie couldn't survive a physical inspection. Arjun came forward and pointed to a signature hidden deep within the stone, a mark only the person who held the chisel could have made. When the law or the truth strips away a person's titles and bank accounts, the extractor is revealed to be empty. They have no value that isn't tied to a ledger. The artisans survived this upheaval because they relied on a different currency, hunar. This is the internal mastery of a craft that exists independently of the market. This diagram compares the two types of assets. On the left, gold is an external object. It can be swiped away by a thief or king. On the right, the node representing skill is woven into the individual, a possession that cannot be confiscated. After his banishment, Dunpal had to abandon his identity as a merchant. He sought out the carpenter he once ridiculed and spent years learning to carve. He traded his ego for a chisel, slowly replacing his lost gold with the newfound ability to create. In Arjun's case, his mastery reached a level that the local legends describe as transformative. He poured so much of his own life into a sculpture of a lost princess that the stone itself began to catch the warmth of life, breaking an ancient curse through the sheer perfection of his work. This suggests that creation is more than just a job. For the ruined, it is a path to survival. For the pure, it is a force that can alter reality. Lalchand's ending was a return to zero. Stripped of the glory he stole from Arjun, he was left to beg for forgiveness from the very person he had tried to render invisible. Dunpal, however, eventually returned to his city. He didn't return as a wealthy man, but as a respected artisan. By mastering a trade, he earned a standing that was based on what he could do, rather than what he could take. Arrogance builds a structure that requires constant maintenance to avoid collapse. Humility and a learned skill build a foundation that remains long after the storms have passed. Status and net worth are moving targets, vulnerable to the whims of the law and the volatility of the market. In an environment that prioritizes having, there is a quiet, durable security in knowing. The most stable investment you can make is the time spent on internal mastery. While the extractor races for a profit that can be lost in a day, the maker builds a set of skills that will serve them for a lifetime.